public workshops, just a time for the people who live here to talk to the commission and also to the city staff, and let everyone hear your ideas and your input as we begin the exciting process of rebuilding our city. So our library is a little bit misleading for people who drive by it right now, because there are still, you can look through the window and actually see some books in there, and it looks from the outside like maybe it might still be functioning. But if you were anywhere nearby here about a year ago on October 10th, when the hurricane made landfall, it actually took the roof off that building, and everything in there was wet and virtually destroyed. Computers, books, the books were wet to the point that they couldn't be dried out. Of course, they mold quickly after that. I would like to give great kudos and congratulations to those employees, because most of you know my background is, at one point, was an English teacher, so I have a great love for books. And I remember talking to some of our city staff and saying, could we get into that library and try to grab some of the archives out of the reference section, and maybe the vertical file, old newspaper clippings, things that we all want to see preserved. And they went in there, and it was horrible in there. It was just, I can't tell you. And they went through everything, and they got out as much as they could. And one of the things that I was most excited about that they preserved was the picture that we had on loan from Bay County Historical Society of Mr. Lynn, the founder of the town, and that was preserved. So we were really happy about that. So at this point, what we'd like to do is not so much to hear from us as we'd like to hear from you. If you would, when you come up to speak, if you have something to say about the library, what your vision of it is, if you'd use the microphone up front, adjust it so that we can hear you, and people from home are listening as well. Catherine Gay, who's one of our events coordinators, is monitoring comments on Facebook from people who are watching at home, and she'll be bringing those ideas up for you to hear as well. Most of you were given a green and a red card. Again, this comes from a history of being a teacher. It's a consensus builder. If you agree with something that someone is saying, if you hold up the green card, that lets the commission see that. If you disagree with what's being said, hold up a red card, and that lets the commission know that. And that way we can really get a lot of ideas moving in here. So without further ado, you may just raise your hand to be recognized, come forward, and we would like to hear your vision. What would you like to see in the library? Is it about books? Is it about technology? Is it about meeting space? Is it about archives? Is it a combination? We just want, and you may have ideas that no one has even thought of. So at this time, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand to be recognized, and then at the end, I'll bring it back to the commission so that you can hear this commission's ideas as well. Mr. Walker, start with you.
Rich Walker, thank you. Just a little bit of history to get it started. The original library was here, started in 1920-21 by the ladies of this town. They coerced their husbands to give them the land, which is where the library sits now, and the building. Okay, they ran that library for up to 1970, free of charge. Not one penny came from the city, okay? It was a very nice thing done by the ladies. They turned everything over to the city. My vision, not my vision, but my idea that I'd like to see is, at that time, it was a public library. You notice on the front of ours, it doesn't say public, it says library. We charge anybody outside of Bay County to join that library. Bay County does not charge us to join it. What I'd like to see, if you could program it in, to make it a public library. It should be public for everybody in this county and for visitors. That is my one idea I'd like to see. Other people are going to tell you some other interesting things too, so I won't take their thunder, but I'd like to see that.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Go ahead, sir.
David Cooley, 206 Georgia Avenue, born and raised here pretty much. I would like to see the library join the Northwest Regional Library System, mainly because I've been using this library for a long time. Whenever I couldn't find a book, I had to go down to the Bay County Library, which is Northwest Regional Library. For us to basically reinvent the wheel, I think it's kind of counterintuitive. We should, it would make it easier. They've already have the computers installed. They have it. They have a great distribution system. When I look up a book and it's out in Port St. Joe or at the beach, they'll bring it to the Bay County Library. I would like Lynn Haven to be included with that, because if I wanted a book, they can have it delivered to Lynn Haven because they have that great transport facility and there's no cost to join. I mean, right now we could join it today with the trailer being over here. And if I want a book, they bring it here. I could walk over, pick it up or whatever and go home. Plus, if you look, they're starting to get into Kindle too. And for us as Lynn Haven to get into Kindle books, I think that's a pretty expensive proposition to sign up for that. Versus with the Northwest Regional Library, it'd really make it easier for Kindles and books and everything, make it convenient for all our residents. And
Thank you so much. And you have a lot of people who agree with you on that. Very, very good. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with the gentleman just before me. Many of you don't know that Lynn Haven Library was once part of the regional system. Now, the city furnishes the building, but it is not free. Sorry about that. I wish it was. The books and obviously there's going to be cost, and there's a fee usually charged for administrative and whatever, but it is, I agree with the gentleman before me, it is a bargain that we would get rather than to, as it has been now. My understanding, there was some kind of disagreement between the city and the regional system, so they decided to break off. And I believe it probably like 20, 25 years ago. But the greatest majority of citizens could definitely enjoy from the regional system. Might be a little biased because my wife worked there for a few years. I worked there briefly. So it is a good thing, I believe, for the citizens of Lynn Haven, because they would gather much more than they would if going back to the old way it was.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. Is there anyone else? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Christine Williams, 1312 New Hampshire Avenue. I have 3 children that attend Bay County schools and look very forward to having a new library here in the city of Lynn Haven. I have a question. If we're working with FEMA or any other folks that would help us with getting in contact with the American Library Association to find out where they may be able to help us. I'm understanding there's programs out there that they work in conjunction with other agencies to try to help cities and counties rebuild their libraries after disasters. So are we working with anybody at that level? Sorry, I'm kind of just getting involved
That's okay.
in this.
That's okay. We're definitely working with FEMA for reimbursement to build back, what we had, and to enhance that with whatever we can to make it even better. And then as a city, we are definitely pursuing everything that's possible in the way of grants for every area, whether it's sports, if it's the Library Association with the old City Hall. We're looking at Florida's historical buildings, there, ways that we can get money from them. And so we are pursuing every avenue of funding.
Okay, that sounds great. If there's anything that we can do as citizens to help keep that going, petitions, whatever that may be, I would hope that we keep in the light of that so we can do what we can to help out.
And if you're interested in volunteering, with the city in any way, just, contact us
Okay.
and let us know. And I think that's and I don't want to put my ideas out till the public's had a chance, but I'll come back to something that you just mentioned when I have a chance to speak in a few minutes.
Okay,
Thank
sounds
you.
great. Thank you all.
Mhm. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Come on. It just bends down to you. There you go. Sure.
Donna Smoker on New Hampshire Avenue. They talked about going to the public library system moving forth. Is that going to be through the Northwest Florida Library System, through the city?
I believe that, and I will have to double check on what I'm saying, but I believe that it's a multiple funding sources. In other words, the city would have some expense, the county would have some expense, the North, I think it's more than one pool of funds that go together as far as the administration, the running of it, the buying of the books, the sharing of the books. But if anyone else on this board has more information about that than I do, please feel free to speak up. Oh, And Alice, who is our librarian, is here. Alice, I do apologize. That is our resident expert. Do you have an answer to that question, Alice, that you could help with this? Okay. I know that I can tell you that for us to rejoin would not be a difficult process. As far as the funding of it, I'm assuming that it would not be free, of course, that everybody has to pay a share. We would have to probably provide a building. We'd have to provide, our books, because if we're going to borrow from them, they're going to want to borrow from us, and it's an interlibrary loan system. So, but as we move, if we move forward in that direction, and it certainly looks like that the people who are here are in favor of that at this point, and I don't know, we'll get more input, but having more books at our disposal for less money is, sort of a easy thing to discern.
Because we moved to this community 17 years ago, and the library's always been our favorite. Our librarians, which I know several of them probably have moved forth, I would love to have them back. But so we would definitely be in favor of getting our library back.
And we're doing that. They are great. And by the way, they're still here, and they're still working for the city. And they've been so, as people who are around books are, they're flexible, and they've been doing all kinds of things for the city. And while we're waiting, the bookmobile that we have is slated to reopen here. It's been open over in another city, but our city manager's telling me about October 1st. We hope to have it open, and we're going to need volunteers for that. So those of you who are interested, I'd love to hear from you. You can sure, go ahead. You can speak again. So it's a.
Yeah, somebody had brought up something to me before. I think it would be good to address here is down at the Bay County Library, they have computer access for a lot of people. I think that would be something that we would probably have to fund for ourselves. So yeah, we'll share the books and stuff, but then we'll have computers access for the kids and everybody else to share. And that's something that we would probably fund as a city. And then that way everybody can go back the way it was before. Because I think we had computers before in Lynn Haven.
We did.
Shared. And that would be something that we could provide. So. And
they were a bit antiquated. I mean, we need a technology upgrade for sure. But in the Bay County Library, there's a time limit. I mean, you can come in, and if their computer's open, they don't kick anybody out. But if there are 20 people waiting to use a computer, then they'll ask you to use it for 30 minutes and leave or something like that. So there are ways to manage it so that everybody could share it. Is there anyone else? Go ahead.
Just additional in relation to Mr. Schultz there. Yes, there was up in 1970, when the ladies turned the library over to it. There was a lady that was connected to it named Montgomery. She supplied a $50,000 grant to this library here, and that gave you your computers, and that was very nice. That all course is all lost anyway, and she was connected to McMullen Library also. Back to the Northwest joinment. Yes, the ladies did join it, the initial start, and they stayed with it until the day that they gave it to the city. There was a fight between mayor and the city manager over jurisdiction, and that's what they thought. They were going to lose control of it. They weren't going to, but that was their idea. That's why we didn't continue with it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak about the library? Okay, at this point, what I'll do, I would like to start with Commissioner Tender and just sort of go through the commission and let each of the commissioners talk about his or her vision for what they'd like to see with the library. And if any of that spurs some ideas from you and you want to come back into the discussion, we still have some time. Okay, Commissioner Tender.
Thank you, Mayor. I've had a lot of older folks, seniors, really show a huge interest in the library, and they're very anxious for it to come back online. And I keep telling them, I think it might be towards the end of our wish list, but I don't know where it stands now as far as rebuild. But when I tell them about the bookmobile, they're very excited because there at least is going to be a place where you can go get books. Obviously, library we had a great library. I too tend to agree with the Northwest, getting back the way it used to be. What better thing to do than to be able to um, get on the computer, order a book, and have it delivered right to your own library? It doesn't get any better than that. So I'm in total favor of that idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Russell?
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and talking. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas. Most of the people that have come to me prior to this meeting have been more in the line of wanting a multimedia center with computers and Kindles to be able to check out books. So that, that's more of the responses I've gotten so far. But I think all of us want the library rebuilt, and I do concur that we need to be a member of the Northwest Florida Library System, so we can, there's no sense in not utilizing, their surplus books as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Our acting city manager, Vicki Gaynor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just as Commissioner Russell was just stating, a lot of people have come to me and wanting a multimedia center and being able to collaborate with partnerships with the Northwest Florida Regional Library. A couple other ideas that folks have called me about is having a community room on the side that can be utilized and even rented out for additional funds if needed. Also having, I think you've talked about it as well, computer rooms where people can utilize those computers, very, very high tech, envisioning someone walking in and having a center, maybe an area where people can come in and really read magazines and newspapers and have maybe a little coffee area set up for folks who want to have that feel of just sitting down and relaxing for a little bit there, reading a book or reading a Kindle or whatever it may be, but also having the residents having access to additional technology has been a big part of a lot of the residents have come and asked me, because in most of the schools now, every student almost they have a computer, they have access to all of the updated technology. And so that has been a lot of my request moving forward. Thank you. Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I'm encouraged to see that I think we're all on the same path. I think we're all going the same direction here. I think we all acknowledge the necessity of having a library or a gathering place where people can come and get educational material or recreational material, whatever. It's funny, I kind of fall in that generation. I'm probably, me and Adam, maybe the only ones up here that fall in this generation. To where, yes, I'm treading lightly. But, when I was younger, computers still hadn't hit yet. I am in that era, okay? So I remember going to the library with my mother. I remember her taking me, and I remember using a card catalog, which most people have no idea in school today what a card catalog is. So what we have here is this balance, I think, between keeping some of our traditional methods while also trying to reach, across the aisle, so to speak, to the younger generations and having them be able to come in and use the facility as well. But I do envision seeing a lot more media center oriented, and I envision classes. I envision, computer classes, social media classes, things like that will help also bridge this gap. And at the same time, maybe we could work on having elementary children come in and read actual books, and have some people come in and volunteer. I think things like that would be great. But just seeing us together as a community, as neighbors working towards this common goal is really awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Perno?
Thank you, Mayor. I too believe that we should have a somewhat of a technology center for the library. We should also mimic what our present library system is doing. I mean, there's authors that tout their books that come and speak at the libraries, and they're on tours, and we can get them to stop here in Lynn Haven. And it's, you'd be surprised who you meet on the book trail. We should look at the school programs for reading and stuff that our present library does and have it here. There's sewing and crafts at the library right now you can go to, and if we could do anything like that, that would be great. It's very community oriented, and I know that at a previous meeting we had someone speak about doing crafts and stuff like that. If we had a setup like that at our library, it would be great. The idea about being able to drink a cup of coffee and read a book is more present day than ever, and that'd be nice. And I just look forward to it being very special. And yes, joining the Northwest Regional Library System is key to that. I think they already do a lot of good stuff that they could bring to specific to our town, and it'd be an extra stop along the way for folks to stay in our community. So thank y'all.
Thank you. I have a few ideas I'd like to add to that. I too think it would be wonderful for us to rejoin the Northwest Regional Library System, and maybe just go as far as asking city manager to go ahead and put that on the next agenda, and we could have a full discussion and do some research in the meantime to see how we can do that. I think it's going to be very easy, actually. I think it's if it's what everybody is in one accord about. The technology part, and we were talking about the computers being destroyed. We are working on FEMA reimbursement, for what is lost. And I was thinking, if it were, sort of a wish list, instead of having everything a stationary computer, I think we need some stationary desktop computers, but maybe invest in a large number of Chromebooks and iPads and Kindles, that the high school and middle school and elementary school children could check out. Those are very light, they're very compact, and children will surprise you at how much care they will take care of these things that they don't have because they're so excited to have them. So I think that's one place we could go, and having a mix of books. I know my granddaughters, a new book, they love the feel of a book in their hands. Children still love to read. There's a smell of a new book, they love that. And I would also encourage, if you haven't seen the Little Library out in the park, it's right by the fish pond. It just says the Little Library. If you have children's books or little items that you no longer want, it's empty right now. I try to put something in there every time I'm out there, but if you put children's books in that little it's called the Free Little Library, and I've noticed the children out on the playground, they'll go over and they'll take books out of there, and they said that we can have these, and I said, yeah, they're free. So they love that, and that's a place to get rid of books that are maybe a little tattered but still readable that the children can enjoy. So I think that this library will be beautiful. I'd like to take it one step further and maybe explore the possibility of being able to share interlibrary loan with Gulf State College and FSU's library out because they have such a huge number of reference and other materials that even the public library doesn't have downtown. So that would be another source. I'm not sure if they'd be willing to do that, but they are usually open to new ideas. And then also having, the room, like Ms. Gaynor was suggesting, we could have meeting rooms. There's so many different groups that meet and need a place to meet, and just have a calendar that you could sign up to use those rooms and get our community together there. Also a quiet side and a noisy side, so that if people are wanting a quiet place to sit and read and have a cup of coffee, but if there's a group of kids that want to study together around a table, maybe have a side that they could do that and make a little noise as they're studying and talking. And so those are some of my ideas. And at this point, I'll throw it back to you because you may have thought of something else. Anyone else before we close out the work? Yes, Brad, go ahead.
Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. I grew up with Dead Tree books. I loved them. My house when I was growing up was full of books. Now that I'm an adult, my house is full of books. Every time that I move, I'm conscious of the fact that I've got boxes and boxes and boxes of books. I love them. But if I think about what the future is going to bring, it's not Dead Tree books. It's electronic books. And I think that we have an opportunity right now to make an investment in electronic books, and that we should be taking advantage of that opportunity. Because Dead Tree books are going to be, why did we do that? 20 years ago after the hurricane, why didn't we go all electronic at that point in time? That's what people will be asking.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Mr. Schultz?
Answer to the gentleman's question. That's why we have Books A Million, places like that. They're still in existence, and they will be here because there are still, even though we're in an electronic era, there are people that, like you mentioned, love the feel of a book and the smell of it. Another suggestion regarding libraries, it's going to be a while before this one is rebuilt. But you have a city hall over here, which I understand mostly is just about vacant. Possibility that maybe one could use some of the rooms for a library. At one time when this library was being expanded, we used the fire department. The library was moved over there. I know I helped move it because, again, my wife worked for the library at the time. So I'm just thinking that might be an idea. If you have a vacant building over there, vacant
Unfortunately,
rooms.
Mr. Schultz, not to interrupt you, but the roof is off of it too, and it's full of mold. In fact,
Oh.
everything in it's full of
Didn't know.
mold. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, not to cut you short. It was a great idea. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak? Catherine, did we have anyone interfacing with us on Facebook on the library? Okay, just the same things that everyone's saying. Okay. All right. Well, then at this time, I would, well, no one else, right? Did you raise your hand now? No? No. We'll move on then to the regular commission meeting for today. I would remind you that tomorrow we are meeting again here at 4 o'clock for a CRA meeting, followed by the commission meeting because of the times that are put on us by the state to approve budget and other items that are on that agenda. So we will meet again tomorrow here beginning at 4 o'clock for a CRA board meeting and then moving into the commission meeting at 5:01. So at this time, I'd like to call to order this regularly scheduled Tuesday meeting and begin with the invocation. And Mr. Miller has agreed to lead us in the invocation. So if you would please stand.
They have been patient through this storm, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Heavenly Father, continue to bless us and bring us together more and more, oh Heavenly Father. We ask you to bless our leaders in Lynn Haven, bless the leaders in our county, and bless the leaders across this world that we may be together. In thy name, for Christ's sake, ever. Amen.
Amen. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 on today's agenda is the mayor's report. And I had several items that I wanted to share with you. I've been meeting weekly with our staff here as we continue to plan our October 10th celebration and commemoration day of the day that Hurricane Michael made landfall. This is going to be a wonderful event. If you haven't heard about it yet, you will. It's being advertised. Most of the advertising has been donated to us. You might see the large signs from Lamar Advertising all around the county. What we're going to do on this day is from 11 until 12 on Thursday, October 10th, will be a time of remembering. We're going to have moments of silence. We're going to have speakers, dignitaries here from various parts of government, from the community. And then after that part of the ceremony is over, the music and the words, and we're going to recognize some very special people who helped us during the storm. The day will be filled every 15 to 30 minutes, different entertainment on the stage. Publix is going to be sponsoring a large amount of food for us. Vittles has donated a large amount of food to us on that day. Florida Blue is going to make a very special announcement of their donation on that day. I think you're going to be so surprised by it. And we're just going to have a great day culminating with our regularly scheduled concert in the park. So if you haven't marked that on your calendar yet, I hope that you will. It is a day to celebrate businesses reopening. There are going to be booths there in the park from all the different businesses. There will be children's activities, many, many school groups coming, dance groups, bands. It's just going to be a wonderful day to celebrate our survival, our resilience, our rebuilding, our moving forward, our sticking together through thick and thin, through arguments, through disagreements. We are Lynn Haven. And also bringing in other people, because if you remember after the storm, this park, we have local contractors here who came in and really cleared this park out, and it became sort of a beacon, a shining light to this whole county. And we had Halloween 2 weeks after the storm. We had Thanksgiving dinner with white tablecloths for the whole town We had a Christmas village where we gave out 40,000 toys. Lynn Haven is a spectacular place to live, and we're going to celebrate that. So what I'm leading up to next, I've met with Florida Blue Public St. Joe Foundation representatives all week long. I've been on the phone with them today. Some of them have been here meeting with us. They're very excited. And all of our employees that day, we're expecting somewhere between 3,000 and 5,000 people to attend this event. And I will tell you, it's going to be magnificent. And all of our employees are going to be working very hard on that day. And I cannot make a motion as the mayor, but I would like to bring up an idea and see if the rest of the commission would discuss it or possibly make a motion in favor of it. The employees are going to be working on that day from very early in the morning until into the evening because of what we're doing here in the park. I think this is so important to our community. Right now, people are depressed. They are anxious. They are doing without. They're worried. They're thinking of moving. And I think a day like this, not only for the residents, this is a day to lift people up, to hold hands, to be strong together, to say that we are going to move forward. And we need to remember that our first responders, our city employees, those that work here, even though their faces are in the window every day, they're just like everyone else. They're facing these same kinds of challenges. And so I'm proposing, if someone would make a motion, that on the day after this celebration, which will be the Friday leading into the weekend, that we would give our employees a day off. They have worked so hard, and they need a mental health day, a day to recharge, a day to be with their families, a day to do some work at their homes, some repainting, a day to call up their insurance and chat with them nicely about what's not being done. They just need some time. So I would throw that out to the commission before I continue with my report.
I'll happily make the motion to do that. I agree wholeheartedly.
Thank you. There's our motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the commission?
Other than mayor, that's a great idea.
Well, actually, the city manager and I talked about it together, so I won't take full credit for that. So but yes, I think it's a great idea as well. Is there any discussion from the public? And there appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So city employees look forward to a day of just gathering your thoughts about you and resting and enjoying your families. Okay. Thank you, Commission. I think that was wonderful. And then moving on, I've also contacted the governor's office this week. I have heard back from them. They are working with me. And they're going to contact me and let me know what the progress is. But I've asked for them to set up a meeting with the senior officials with the Florida Division of Emergency Management regarding what's sort of happening. I don't want to go deep into it, but the Department of Emergency Management in Florida is continuing, and they've added on another layer of what I just call bureaucracy and red tape to our reimbursement process with FEMA. At this moment in time, Lynn Haven has $4.9 million that we have had obligated by the federal arm of FEMA, just waiting on the state of Florida to send it to us. And it has been weeks and weeks and weeks. And now they're asking for something to be put into a different format for a different auditing company the state has hired for all of this area. So I'm just going to, I'm asking to meet with the staff. And I truly believe that we'll get that meeting. The city manager will go with me, and also our representative with Tetra Tech, who does all of our work and consulting, and see if we can't get this moving, because all in all, we have uploaded right now about $21 million that we need to get back. It's time for them to give it back. So we'll be working on that. And with great optimism, I'm a big fan of our governor, and I'm also a big fan of Mr. Moskowitz, who's with Florida Emergency Management. And they have promised us that Florida will not burden the cities of the Panhandle with more red tape. And so I'm just going to go and meet with them and have them reassure me of their promises. And then item number 4, I've contacted the Florida Department of Transportation regarding the dangerous and what I consider often life-threatening traffic congestion and speed on Highway State Road 77, which goes through the middle of our little town. As you know, the speed limit in our town from Bailey Bridge to 17th Street is 35 miles per hour. And I think you'll all agree with me that that has been forgotten. We have a traffic division with the Lynn Haven Police Department, but that highway does not belong to us. And our traffic division is already pushed, just taking care of our neighborhood streets and the Lynn Haven business. So I've asked to meet with District Secretary Philip Gaynor and his staff, and I've asked our police chief if he'll go with me to help me build the case, and also am in the process of making contacts with the major with Highway Patrol so that we can talk to them about what they can do. If you think about it, at the base of Bailey Bridge, they've already done one traffic study there. When I first became mayor, I asked for it, and they told me they could not put a traffic signal at 5th Street because we'd not had enough fatalities or major crashes there yet. I don't like those metrics. I don't think that's the way to decide. And I've spoken that, and I'm speaking it now. So whoever's listening, I hope you'll take it with big ears listening to what I'm saying. We lost a young man recently on that bridge in a horrific crash. And if you think about it, Porter Park is the most popular boat ramp, the best boat ramp in Bay County. It is so congested. There are people pulling out of their whole families in cars. Po Folks Restaurant, one of the only places you can sit down and eat, is always full, mostly senior citizens coming out of there. Simply Sam's, you know how many cars are pulling in and out of there. Ace Hardware, all of those are right there on that corner. And it's time for the Florida Department of Transportation to throw away their studies, throw away their red tape, and put up a flashing sign that says congested area, slow down or you will be ticketed, and then stand by that. So that's what I'm pushing forward, and I will stay on that until we get it done, or they'll just have to keep listening to me. I met with the city manager on several occasions for updates and to discuss the budget and other matters, and I'll let my report go there. So I am engaged with bureaucracy and will be for the next few weeks, and I would love to have your prayers and your support, and we'll see where we go. With that, I'll go to number 4, the commissioner's report, and I'll start this time with Commissioner Perno.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much report other than I was contacted by a citizen actually today regarding the backflow preventers and the letter that they received. And I spoke to city manager and I spoke to Greg, and I just wanted to reassure people that the options for the apparatus are less expensive than $600 to $800. The citizen was very concerned that he had to spend that much money, and Greg reassured me that the option on the letter is a $60 to $80 device, and it will suffice for what they need to do. So I just wanted to publicly state that. And with that, that's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. I've been contacted by some of those too, and we'll have some more to say about that too as we move on. Go ahead, Commissioner Aldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. The last couple of weeks, we have been moving forward in a very positive manner, I think, as a city as a whole. It's been very exciting to see the lights come on. Me and acting city manager Vicki Gaynor has been, we'll text, a picture of the lights at night back and forth to each other. Look at the lights. They're awesome. It's so great to see. But I'm also seeing things like the public, our neighborhoods coming together and saying, man, kudos to the city of Lynn Haven. And I agree. Kudos to the city of Lynn Haven. The guys and gals out there, boots on the ground, making it happen. We're making it happen. We're going to keep making it happen. And I'm very, very thankful for this team that we have out there right now in the midst of this storm. So we're also working on some grants. I want everybody to be aware that the city staff and the commissioners are always looking for ways to get money in, whether it be state grant, federal grant money, corporate grant money. That's some stuff we're looking at right now. But there's some exciting things on the horizon. I'm glad we're finally moving forward in some great steps and directions with our buildings, with our library. And again, I just want to thank everybody for your participation throughout this whole process. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, the progress is nice. It's actually nice to start getting phone calls telling us thank you again. So I want to thank the acting city manager and our facility director, Joe Footen, for taking care of the lights at the King Griffin basketball courts. I've gotten 2 or 3 phone calls about that already. So I really appreciate y'all taking care of that, as well as the lights on Mosley Drive. I was getting complaints about that, and now I'm getting people calling saying thank you. So the big issue that I keep getting hit with the last week or so has been the traffic at Hawks Landing, which I talked about that last commission meeting, and I see it's on the agenda tonight. So I want to thank Chief Ramey and the city engineer and the city manager for for getting this situation resolved. Hopefully we can resolve it where everybody's happy and we alleviate that traffic problem. So other than that, it's digging into budgets and paperwork as always. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Thank you. I actually just opened a letter that I got in the mail here from a gentleman who has an issue, and I think he's probably not the only one. It's dealing with the fact that his neighbors don't have fences right now, things of this nature. We have chickens, or whichever one. I'm not a farm person. I don't know. Is it the rooster, whoever's doing all the noise going on? Yes, at 4 o'clock in the morning. And he's not a very happy man, and I'm sure he's not the only one that's having this problem. He has called code enforcement, but he won't even tell me his name here because he's a little bit nervous because he's had him out before. I don't know if that's a common problem. No? You haven't heard anybody complain? Well, anyway, he's complaining, and I don't know how to help him.
I'm laughing, Commissioner Tender. I have a joke in a minute about the chickens.
Okay, yeah. But anyway, I want him to know that I heard him, and if there's anything we can do. I've had situations like this before where the neighbors did not get along, and one was maybe breaking the law by burning trash and things of that nature, and he was very hard to catch at it. But I can tell you there was a happy ending. His wife left him and he moved on. So he made more than one person happy. And then I also got a communication from a gentleman, and I started really paying attention to this after he brought it to my attention. He said, we did such a great job of cleaning up the debris and the furniture and things of that nature. But he says it's slowly coming back. And I went to look and see where he was talking about, down on 26th Street. I've seen it more places than one. And somebody throws out a chair, and then the next day somebody's got a garbage can sitting next to it, and it just keeps growing. So I don't know how we can combat that. Obviously, it's a code enforcement issue, but like down on 26th Street, they all live, across that little gully there. You don't know who's putting it out. But I know I used to get pickup of items like that every Tuesday. And are we still doing that?
And
Or
you want to go ahead? You can address
household
that.
items?
And we can address that as far as the household items. It is done. But I was going to say that one of the discussions that city manager and I have had is that once we have Ashbridge and the other large haulers working on our waterways right now, and one of the discussions which we're probably going to move forward with, we'll maybe bring it to the commission. It just depends on the cost, but we're thinking so many people have just now settled with insurance and are just now starting to work on their homes, with Mayor being one of those. And there will be more debris, and we're thinking that maybe in October of scheduling another pass through the city just to get rid of that last little group. So, and I'll let, when city manager gets to her report, she can expound on that a little bit, but that's one of our thoughts.
That would be great. Anyway, those are the kind of issues that I've been dealing with. And of course, the budget issues and things of that nature. I know I'm forgetting something, but it must not be too important because I can't remember. Thank you.
And just for the sake of humor, when you mentioned the chickens, it takes me back when I decided to run for the office of mayor over 4 years ago. Chickens were, believe it or not, the center point of that campaign because the commission had placed a chicken tax on the chickens in Lynn Haven. And I fully remember one of the debates. You could have a limit of 5 chickens. It was $5 a chicken. And I had on my first campaign brochure a huge chicken on the front, and on my sign it had a chicken that ran across it on the lighted sign and jumped up on a tax box which lit up. But the funny part of that was in the debate, it was like, well, let's say I bought my 5 chickens and the chickens had little chickens, and then I now had 30 chickens and I'm over the limit, but do I have to pay taxes on them? Or if I eat them, then do I get the tax money back? And the debate went on and on and on. So there was a lot of humor about chickens in Lynn Haven, but people are allowed to legally keep them. They are not taxed for them, but they are asked to have them in some sort of enclosure, if that's to answer your question. So because the coyotes will get them anyway if they don't. So it will have a happy ending either way. So after that moment of humor, I'll move on to the acting city manager's report.
I don't think I could follow that.
Sorry.
All right. Mayor, I will say that the city and its employees are laser focused on rebuilding the city right now. We have so many plans in place to do that with a design company that's not part of the governmental rebuild that I'll talk about in a little bit. But it has to do with the senior center, the garden club, and the service center. Next week, we will have a pre-con meeting, a pre-conference meeting for the roofs to be on the buildings in the senior center and the other three buildings. But at the same time, meeting with facilities director and community services director and Weber Design about all the things that we've talked about for the senior center, and going out today and actually looking at it and thinking about you when we're doing putting this senior center back together. So we were over there this morning doing just that. It is going to be a really great senior center once we finish that. We are also remodeling and putting stuff in for the service center. So that should be finished probably in a couple of weeks. We anticipate that the roofs will probably be done on all three buildings somewhere in December. Really excited about that. We've been meeting on the RFQ phase for the rebuild of the city, which are the governmental buildings. We have another meeting this week with our consultant and our legal to talk about the phases that we have to go through, making sure that we have the legal side of the information in there, the FEMA side of the information, and having a good scope of work. And so that first RFQ that will go out will be architect design and engineering, and then we'll be in teams. They'll come back, they present us some designs, and then we will look at them. We probably may choose one or two teams, and then we'll put back out an RFQ to actually build the buildings, which are contractors that will come in and build the buildings. This we're excited about because we know once those designs come in, we are very close to starting to build those buildings. And so that will include Old City Hall, Chambers, Police, and Admin Building, Public Works, Fire Department. Am I missing something? I'm sure I am. But, excuse me? Library, you're exactly right. And library is included in that as well. And so we know that this is going to be somewhat of a long process, but it will get done. Sports complex, animal shelter, all of those are in there. So we are very, very focused on that. We know it's a long process because we don't ever want to put the city in a position where we don't have the opportunity to get reimbursement. We never want to leave money on the table. And so we're going to make sure that we do those things right the first time when we do them, so that the city will come out on top in whatever we do. We also met with GAC and our city engineer about Kensall Park. I think this week they mobilized. Next week they'll start on Kensall Park. So that's going to be coming along really well. I know that our city engineer is working on the Ken Griffin. There are several components to that are getting ready to get started on. Bailey Bridge, we ordered the lights for Bailey Bridge. So we know that those lights are going to be in pretty soon and we'll be lit up way again. Yes, everybody's loving that. So you see all of the things that are happening, and we know it's been a long time, but it's coming to fruition for all of us. Good things. We have the basketball league that started the first game, and I encourage you to come out and encourage the kids. It's October, I think it's 5th that it begins, and so come out and support them. We are pursuing other avenues for money. We're pursuing an avenue is the emergency grant that's out right now. It's worth $25 million. Not to say we're going to get all 25, but we'll take it if they'll give it to us. We might, but we are going to pursue it and try to get some money there for the city. We are just on our way to the community disaster loan. That's another $5 million that we will have, and we're pursuing other grants every single day that will help us in the rebuild for the city. One of the interesting things about this rebuild is that we do stay in contact with FEMA, and FEMA does come by probably weekly to check on us and see where we are in our process. Aside from those weekly meetings that we have every day, we also have people that come in and check on us. And one of the big things, as the mayor has already mentioned, is that we are waiting for that $4.9 million to come in, because that would be very, very helpful to us at this particular time. So we are working on all avenues to rebuild, and I know citizens have been very, very patient, but I say to you, once we finish rebuilding City of Lynn Haven, it will be the premier city, and you will love, and you will know that it was well worth waiting for. So I think those are just a couple of things that I wanted to mention today, and hope everyone had a really great week.
Thank you. That brings us to item number 6, which is our city attorney's report. Mr. Albritton?
Thank you, Mayor, Commission. Excuse me. I do have one issue. As the Commission and Mayor, you're aware, at this time the staff has completed the applicant verification process, and we need to look at scheduling interviews of the 3 candidates. What I would ask of this Commission, assuming that there's nothing objectionable, is that you allow me to coordinate everyone's calendar for possible interviews with these candidates in October, November time range. That should be far enough out that calendars are open, but close enough we can move forward with the process. That's my thought, but I certainly will. It's the prerogative of the Commission on how you wish to direct me to go forward.
Are there any comments from the Commission? Any ideas?
Mayor, I mean, if
Yes.
nobody else has got any comments, I would say let's move forward.
Well, I think the city attorney is asking for some direction.
Time frame.
Oh, yeah, and I was saying let's move forward this time frame, October, November. Let's get it done. Let's get them scheduled. Let's get the interviews started.
I'll coordinate with each of y'all.
That's my suggestion anyway, Mayor. I mean, I don't know if it takes a commission vote or.
Well, we need a motion and a second to give direction to the attorney about what we want to do. So I'm hearing you say what we should do, if you want to put it in the form of a motion. And
yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I just have a question.
Well, go ahead.
I wanted to ask this, if I may, Mayor. I'm sorry, I'm not putting you off, but
Go ahead, Commissioner Tender.
I'd like to find out, are we going to do our interviews the way we did it last time, where we have all the candidates in one location and we are in a room and we interview them all privately, and then we interview them in front of the public? Are we doing it the same way?
That actually is at the pleasure of this commission. There is not direction given in the charter on the process. There is direction that this commission hires the city manager. So in this particular case, our city attorney has handled this process for us because our acting city manager is one of the applicants. And so that's why he's handled. But there is, you may make a motion for whatever interview process that you like, unless the attorney has already given a process to those applicants based on something we said before. So I don't know.
No, we've discussed this before, and my proposal to the Commission as outlined in correspondence is for individual in-person meetings, and then thereafter coordinate either a special meeting or at the regular meeting an opportunity for those candidates to come and present to the Commission and do a Q&A session at a public meeting where the public will be present. So I believe that I've addressed that in previous correspondence. I apologize for not doing it clearly if I didn't make myself clear.
I'm sure it was clear.
And as far as in-person meetings, as we move forward, if the Commission wants any special conditions, certainly consider it. But the way I would perceive it is we'll try and set them all for one day. The individuals will not have any media usage. They'll go into a room, obviously because of sunshine rules, it would have to be one commissioner and the candidate and possibly staff and myself being one of those persons. And then thereafter, at a public meeting, obviously all commissioners would be present or have the option to be present.
If I may add, I
Go
agree
ahead,
with-
Commissioner Aldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. We are coming up on the holiday season as well, so I agree. We're all going to get derailed, whether intentionally or not, somewhat with the holidays coming up, I think. So getting this going, before the holiday season would be best. 4 to 6 weeks, I would say. I agree with Commissioner Russell.
And if I may suggest, if we could schedule interviews on regular commission day, maybe that would make sure that everyone's in town because they're planning for that anyway. Is that a
Yes.
possibility?
Yes, ma'am. What I'll do is just send out correspondence or speak to each one individually on the best day that works to ensure there's no vacations planned. There's nobody's going to be out of town. We obviously probably don't want to do anything around our celebration event in that time frame because everybody will be busy. So we'll coordinate, or I will coordinate to make sure it's best possible timing, and then we'll go from there. Certainly, Mayor, I will look at Tuesday per your suggestion, a Tuesday morning probably. And then see if we can't finish those. I would believe a half day probably should cover, but we can have a half day and then some if needed.
And just to follow up on that thought, if we had the individual interviews on the Tuesday of a commission meeting, and then we could, I'm assuming we would be asking the candidates the same questions in a public meeting. Maybe we could just follow on it in that way, especially if someone's traveling to come here. That would give them the opportunity to have the individual interview and then appear before the commission on the same day before returning home.
Try doing all interview processes in one day. Would the commission be willing, or would the commission desire to allow the candidates to give a dissertation before the Q&A started in the public meeting to describe why they believe that they're this was an opportunity and a good fit for the city of Lynn Haven before individual members ask the candidates at this public meeting any questions they find pertinent.
What are your thoughts, Commission?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
I would like to see them have a chance to introduce themselves, but I'd also like, I can't remember when we interviewed for the previous city manager, whether we allowed the public to ask questions. We did not. I would like the commission to consider either allowing the public to submit questions for us to ask or allow them to ask. Because obviously, I mean, they've got a vested interest as well as we do to make sure we hire the right person. I know that may make the meeting run a little longer, but I think they should have the opportunity to ask questions as well. Just my thought is, throwing it out there.
If I may, I don't have a problem with residents giving us questions to ask, to get those answers that they would like. But I think we'd be opening up a very lengthy meeting if everybody stood in line to ask. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So, I mean, I don't have a problem with entertaining that.
Are there other thoughts?
Yes, Mayor, I agree with Commissioner Tender on that. I think there needs to be even maybe a vetting process to the questions, just so nothing's sprung on anybody out of the blue.
And go ahead.
Well, I was going to kind of respond to that. If you take on the position of city manager, much like being a commissioner, you're always at, I'll use the word, the mercy of the public. You never know what someone's going to ask you. So the interview process might be a good time to find out how that candidate would respond to a question they weren't expecting. I mean, I'm not saying that we would allow a disrespectful question or a question, with language, and I can't imagine that happening, but I think that that's probably the time that you want to see how someone thinks on his or her feet and how they respond to those kinds of questions. So,
Mayor, if I may, that's kind of my thoughts as well. And I know that it, like I said, it's going to be a long day by the time we interview each one of them. But I'm not saying that it should be done, but I'm saying I would love to see the public have the chance to ask the questions.
and there are only 3 applicants. We started with
Sure.
50 and we have 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And the commission could put time limits. They could have a section for the commission to ask the candidates questions, and then it's time period for the public to ask questions. Understanding that we could be here all night if each member of the public came, so we could have 30 and 30 minutes, or 60 and 60, or however much time the commission would think is appropriate. But there would be some defined cutoff period if you did it that way.
And because we cannot talk individually about this because it is something we're voting on, this is the time to set these parameters. So let's get it done.
Yes, ma'am.
Throw it out there.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
The one thing that I totally disagreed with the last time we hired was that we asked every candidate the exact same question. That can't be.
I'm not preparing questions unless specifically asked. My
So we can
intent
ask-
is for each commissioner and the mayor to have the freedom to ask any question that they deem appropriate. Now, if I'm in there and I see a question that I think that you asked, but I think there should be some follow-up, I may suggest it to you, but that is only as an advisor to the commission or the mayor. that the individual meetings will be each individual's opportunity to run that meeting.
Right. And then at the commission meeting that's open to the public, will we keep the two out of the three in a different place where they can't hear what we're asking? Or will
That's-
all three of them just be,
Technically, it's a public meeting, so we can't exclude anybody.
oh, well, we didn't exclude them last time. They got brought in too. They just got brought in one at a time rather than all three.
I think what, if I may, Commissioner
Yeah.
Tender, I think what she's saying is that the person, if they're allowed to sit in the audience and listen to the responses of those before them, especially if the same question comes up, then it gives some advantage to the one who's allowed to sit there and think about an answer as opposed to the other.
We can certainly request that the candidates adhere, and if they do not choose to adhere to our request, I think that would be indicative of their suitability for the position. Does that make sense, Commissioner?
It does. Thank
Okay.
you.
Mhm.
Other comments? So I still haven't heard the parameters of the interview, like it needs to be spelled out. So we're going to have, the morning will be,
We will I'll coordinate a specific date. We'll throw
Okay.
out some dates with each member of this commission. We will shoot for a Tuesday
okay,
where we have a commission meeting already planned, and we'll do all three individual interviews. We'll start in the morning, and they'll run as long as necessary, but I would think half a day should get it done with three individuals. That afternoon, either during or just before, we'll coordinate the exact timing, whether we need to have a special workshop time or we can just add it to the agenda. We would have the public interviews with all three applicants. My suggestion is if this commission would like to have the public question, then that we put some sort of time parameters. So I think Commissioner Tender's observation was very valid. We could be here a long time. So if we put 30 minutes for the commission and then 30 minutes for the public to ask questions, that would keep us on a defined time period of 1 hour, and then we can move on with the rest of the commission's business.
is there a motion to entertain the attorney's suggestions on this parameter?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I'd like to know how and when, and I ask this because of our last experience, how and when will this board discuss the starting salary of whoever we select? And will
Obviously,
it be done in public?
Obviously, the commission can, y'all can figure out how you want to do it. But my suggestion is we would set a time after the interview process to make a determination as to potential offers and parameters of offers. We wouldn't do it all in the interview day because you may want to allow some time to take those interviews, ingest them, think about them, consider them, weight them, and then come back at another regular meeting or special meeting if necessary, and then to make determinations of offers to candidates and what those offers would entail.
And the last time, if I may, what happened, there was a salary range and the commission authorized the mayor to negotiate with the
Oh, yes, you did.
candidate and then brought those offers back to the commission, and then the commission made the decision.
That's correct. But I also remember the last time that we had chose a figure and everybody was in agreement what the starting salary was going to be. And then when we actually made the offer to hire, it was $30,000 a year more. And I know I was like, what happened? And so I don't know how that happened, but
And,
I
and
just
in
wanted to, I
defense
just
of the
wanted to
mayor,
be fair. I want it to be fair.
And in the defense of the mayor, I would say that the mayor is the messenger in this. It's a negotiating process. The mayor just brings it back to the table, and you decide, and the commission went with that decision. So,
And I think in a range and designating the appropriate individual to make the negotiation. Last time it was the mayor, just so we know I was not here last time, so I'm not sure what all happened or what was said, but I think that would be appropriate. I think if the commission has a hard number beforehand, it limits the ability for the mayor or whoever may be designated to negotiate. Ultimately, if that number cannot be met, if the city commission says the number should be X, but the candidate says Y, then the commission can move on to the next candidate or scrap and start over. So there's no obligation for the commission to come to an agreement on a number that they do not approve of.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
is everybody content at this point with the process? Okay. Any other discussion? Is there any discussion from the public? Anybody want to say anything? Oh, okay. And I kind of expected that. I'll start with Mr. Schultz.
Yes, thank you. Bob Schultz, 509 Pennsylvania Avenue. Are you allowed to tell us who the candidates are and where they're from, other than Ms. Gaynor? I know she's one. Who's the other two?
I would say that we are because it is a public document. Is that correct, Mr. Albritton, or not?
That's correct.
Who-
I've generated
Who are
a
they and where are
spreadsheet.
they from?
It would be easier for me just to provide Ms. Gaynor a spreadsheet that she could get to you with the necessary information. I can't tell you off the top of my head
I
where they're
can.
from or the background.
Okay, can somebody please?
I can tell you that one is from here, recently retired as a military Navy person from Key West. One is from Georgia, and one is sitting next to me.
Thank you.
Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. To my knowledge, there's never been but one interview with the public with the candidates. That was staged after the commissioners met one-on-one so that their questions would not be duplicated. It was perfect. After they finished, then they were put in a room together and the public was allowed to question them. That was Mr. Schubert was allowed. We did that with Mr. Schubert
Okay.
when he was hired. That allowed the public to ask the questions, didn't impact on your questions, and the commissioners didn't attend. That was the only time that the public was allowed. I'm glad to see the public be allowed, but I think it should be separate.
If I may.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Please go ahead, Commissioner Russell.
And the only reason I'm shaking my head, Mr. Walker, is because I want all the information I get, and you may ask a question that I hadn't thought about.
Okay,
And
fine.
so I want
fine
to
and
make sure I
dandy.
know. Yes, so that's the only reason. That's the only reason.
More the merrier. I agree with that. But just to make for
Thank you.
clarification, it worked very well.
Thank you very much.
But the public was sitting there, and it was most enjoyable to see who the sharpest knife in the box was.
Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue.
You can tilt it in.
One item my husband failed to mention was that it did not take very long. Even though there were 7, 8, or 9 candidates, a room full of participants sitting at chairs and desks at the old police department, it did not take long for us to ask the question.
Excellent.
And it was enjoyable to see them up there. My question for the attorney was it salary stated in the paperwork given to each applicant?
It's a salary range.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes, go ahead.
there is not a salary promised to the ultimate applicant that is awarded the job. Now, is it understood that there's a range of possibilities? Yes. But I could not put a number and say that whoever is awarded the job by this commission gets X amount of dollars. I could not put that in a solicitation absent direct requirement from this commission. They did not give me that authority to do it. So
Thank you.
a lot in part based off qualifications, who's on there, what background, et cetera, would determine to some degree the amount that would be appropriate for compensation.
Thanks.
Are there any other comments or questions from the public? Yes, Mr. Yount.
The last go round, Brad Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. At the last go round, we had a very awkward negotiating position because we were told that there was one candidate and one candidate only that could be negotiated with. If negotiations broke down, the entire process had to start all over again. I think that I'm hearing a different way of doing it this time, that we can go to a secondary backup candidate if negotiations with the first one break down.
That's what I heard too.
Yes, assuming the secondary candidate, the next option in line, is still interested in the job after the process of negotiating with the initial one, et cetera, then I would suggest to the commission, they have two options. One is to fall back on one of the other two candidates that would be remaining, or they could have the option to start over if they wanted to, and that would be within the discretion and the public policy decision-making of this commission.
Yeah, that puts you in a much more powerful position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yount. Anyone else? Okay, at this point, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll? And just to remind you, we are voting on the parameters of the hiring of the city manager. Go ahead.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So go forth and carry on, Mr. Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor.
Moving on to item number 7. This would be public commentary. This is an opportunity for anyone who's in the audience. If you have anything you'd like to bring before the commission at this time, this is your opportunity. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Yeah, Martha Ross at 1218 Georgia Avenue. What is being done along that railroad track behind the house now that starts at 1218 is where it essentially starts, just right there behind the house,
Where
behind
the-
my home.
Where the rails to trails is going to be.
Okay.
That is, right now, that is part of the debris clearing from the waterways. It's part of the granted program that we're working on right now that you're seeing. They're still moving debris, and part of that, there are areas along there that are hot spots or blocked
Okay.
areas, and they're cleaning that.
Okay, well, the only, I had called your office, Mr. Albritton, last week and briefly explained to a young lady why I needed to speak with you because I didn't know where else to start. Before anything else goes, whoever needs to know that that dirt is ours on our warranty deed. We had problems with Marina Island over that. And we went down to the tax appraiser's office and let him look at our warranty deed, and he checked the people, the Waddells that owned it before us, and he says that is our dirt.
What is your address again, Ms. Ross?
1218 Georgia.
1218.
Right, and I don't know where else to go with this or who
Okay,
else to talk
this is-
to.
this is
And I
probably
had
the
been
right
waiting
place.
on a call because I was recommended to speak to you or either to you,
And is this
Margot.
is part of the when Marina Island was working with us on Parcel C, when they went to
yes.
each resident to talk about
Yeah.
access and
Yeah, they were
egress and-
pretty ugly.
I'm not a
and-
big fan either. Go ahead.
Well, they were pretty.
They were ugly to me as well. I completely
Well,
understand.
they were real threatening. And when you got people like me who are in their 70s and think the life, they've worked hard enough.
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
a retired ICU and trauma nurse, and I've seen my days of hard work.
Could you
That we could relax, but that didn't seem to be the case.
sure? Could you just call and make an appointment with our acting city manager, and then
I would
maybe we
love
could get
that.
Mr. Albritton to come in and meet with you as well at your convenience, and we'll set
Right.
up a time.
And I
and-
can bring all of my paperwork and all of my notes from the last however many years. And
That
they're
would be great.
handwritten, a plethora of
Okay.
them.
Okay,
But I
just
would
just
love
let
to
them
do
know
that.
when you can meet, and they'll come together and maybe find a good solution.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a rehearsal then, so I'm gonna leave. Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if this is the right time. Tim Clark, 1705 Massachusetts Avenue. Just because you mentioned that you guys are working on hot spots with cleaning out the stormwater drainage, is there a map or anywhere that you're showing the citizens which direction you're moving? Where is
Yes,
that at?
it is on the city website, and there is an updated map in color that shows where they've been and where they're going with these waterways. And if you have, I have trouble sometimes when I'm trying to navigate what's happening. In fact, I actually wrote an email today asking some questions. And so if you're having difficulty understanding, again, if you want to call and set up an appointment, we can get one of the city engineers consultants to come in, and Ms. Gaynor, and we can meet with you and answer some questions. if
Okay,
you
yeah,
have
because
some.
there's been just a big issue throughout the neighborhood over there where I live
Yes.
at with the city easements and the waterways. And I guess my next question is, who on city council or in the city regulates code enforcement as far as if code enforcement's not doing what you think is
That would be
supposed to
Police
be
Chief
done?
Ramey sitting in the back as of October the
October
1st.
But you can call me if there's some problems with code enforcement.
Okay, so he
Mhm.
oversees the
Sorry.
actual employees
Mhm.
of code enforcement.
October 1, he will.
Okay.
It's a new, it's a new
Yes.
process that
Yes.
we're
Okay, 'cause
doing
I've been
now.
leaving messages at the office and don't get anything
Can you
back.
see me afterwards, and I'll actually show you the map too. So
Yes.
it's right, it's a big map in my office. It won't take long at all.
Okay.
If you can.
And I guess my next question on that is, it's also, the stormwater drainage ditches in that neighborhood are usually on half of the street, and then on the other half, it's just an easement that neighbors have been allowed to just use those easements. I guess my concern is, since the neighbors are tending to those easements and mowing them, putting sheds on them, storing trailers on them, I think they begin to feel
Possessive.
ownership of it.
Mhm.
That is kind of what has caused, I got the cops calling me 3 or 4 times in the last month over easement use and who can and cannot use it. And also who's supposed to maintain, like, you know, the guy mows the ditch. So he feels like, hey, I'm maintaining the ditch, then I get to do what I want with the ditch. So I guess those are my questions is, you know, of course I did a lot of research on who and what and then the ordinances with the storm drainage ditches. But you know,
So I
just
think
want to
if
make
you-
sure that we're not polluting the storm drainage ditches and
Sure.
that we're going to begin to truly enforce, you know, those issues.
So I think if you
Yes.
meet with city
Yes.
manager and she can clarify that, you know, what's happening with that, and then maybe give her some of the addresses that you feel are, you know, trespassing or violating some of the city property or causing some issues, and then she can push that on to the proper people.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you. For
you.
coming. Yes, ma'am.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Back in August, specifically the August 27 meeting, I brought to the city manager's and the mayor's attention a letter that my neighbor, Mr. Dean, had received from code enforcement, listing some items that code enforcement found in violation. And I spoke for my neighbor since he's been across the street 18 years, and I had never ever seen any of those violations. I mentioned it to the commission. Mr. Dean, I believe the city manager worked that out. So I would like to say thank you very much. And even though Mr. Dean did not get a letter stating that his first letter was incorrect, the code enforcement folks did come by and apologize to Mr. Dean for the incorrect information that he was given in that letter. So I appreciate that very much. The second thing is, in the minutes that you're going to approve in a few minutes, it was noted that at the last meeting here on September the 11th, Ms. Tinder mentioned Andrew Bale's name when the new company ACMT came up, thinking that Mr. Bales may be involved somehow. And Mr. Russell kind of chuckled and said, no. And he showed Ms. Tinder the owner's information. Well, you may want to chuckle some more, but the property on either side of the ACMT, there's a piece of property on this side and a piece of property on this side. AMT is right in the middle on Arthur Drive. Guess who has purchased in May of this year the property here and the property here? Mr. Andrew Bales.
Personally or under the guise of Marina Island?
Marina Island.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Walker. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak? Mr. Walker.
Stand by for a chicken joke.
Okay.
Same thing happened a long time ago to the mayor of the town predecessor, Mayor Kelly. He would get a phone call every morning.
So we're talking about chickens?
Yeah, chicken.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to follow up on you, but I wanted to go into code enforcement. He was going to get a call every morning, 4:30 in the morning when the rooster would crow. And that would wake up everybody in the house. So it got to be a little bit redundant. And the mayor wasn't taking care of it. One day, a phone call came in from the lady saying, complaining, the rooster woke her up. Called the mayor. The mayor's on the phone. The mayor's wife is alongside. And she said, are you going to solve the problem? The lady just, no, I can't solve the problem. She said, you better solve the problem because that rooster's starting to bother the hell out of me. 4:30 in the morning. Watch my language.
Continue, please.
I'm only quoting.
Continue, please.
Anyway, on code enforcement, October 1st is going to be the day we turn it over to the police. It was done that was done before. I was getting phone calls. We couldn't get a hold of anybody in code enforcement, and it was told to us they have a new manager in charge, or is it just going to be Chief Ramey?
They're going to be under Chief Ramey.
And they will have phones, and we could call the chief.
Chief Ramey will let you know the parameters.
Right, exactly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else? Yes, sir.
Fred Thompson, 1600 New Hampshire. And regarding the backflow mitigation project that I got a letter on, it kind of shocked the heck out of me. I've spent most of today researching this project and what it would cost. Talked to multiple plumbers, went to Home Depot and checked out the prices of the items involved. looked at what was going to be physically required in my front yard. I don't know what percentage of Lynn Haven residents actually have an irrigation meter, but in my neighborhood, just about everybody does. So in my mind, I'm picturing this piece of blue painted pipe in my front yard, right by my mailbox. And when I look down the street, all I see is blue painted pipe sticking up. Okay, so I put together a little thing here about some questions I had. What's the date that this has to be done by? There was nothing in the letter that said it had to be done by a certain date.
And I'm going to call on Mr. Kidwell, but before I have Mr. Kidwell speak, Mr. Thompson, I would like to tell you that this is a mandate from DEP of who I have very little personal regard. And it is right now that Lynn Haven is meeting these requirements. It's sort of a mitigation process. I'm going to have some more research done on this because my understanding right now is that this is fairly voluntarily on the part of residents until we reach a certain percentage. And so I'm not telling you not to respond to that, but I'm telling you that I think right now there's not any hard and fast lines of when that has to be done. And I'll let Mr. Kidwell, who really knows what he's talking about, tell you about this. But DEP is an organization which has way too much power in this mayor's opinion. It's just my opinion, so you don't have to agree with me. I do not like the fact that they're telling our city that we have to do certain things. And that's another discussion I want to have with our governor and with the League of Cities. But at that point, I'll stop opinionating and opining, but I do not think you have to comply with that tomorrow. Mr. Kidwell, do you want to jump in and take care of me?
That's correct. This letter that we sent out, we did not put a blank statement.
Do you mind taking the microphone so that people listening at home can hear you? I'm sorry. Instead of me blasting DEP, they might appreciate you more.
Greg Kidwell, City of Lynn Haven Utility Director. There was no date put on that letter. This is our first push to get this information out to the public. You have options on the location of this device. We handled over 30 calls today and had 10 walk-ins. I'd like to meet with you after the meeting or tomorrow, whenever it's convenient for you, and I can answer all your questions and concerns.
Okay. Well, I got a whole list of questions here.
I'll be happy to address it.
So if you want this in the public, or should I just meet with him?
Well, if you want to meet with Mr. Kidwell first and see if you get your questions answered satisfactorily, which I'm sure that you will be because he's very good. And then if you still feel differently about it and want to come back before the commission, feel free to do that.
Well, just so you know, I did send letters to both of our state representatives, Mr. Gaynor and
Good for you.
Trumbull, and pointed this out to them and said, hey guys, this is a state level thing. If this is done statewide, the citizens of Florida are going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars putting plastic pipes in their front yard.
And it goes back to also League of Cities and home rule. And I will say that this is something that I believe in, and most people that I know that are mayors of the cities that I know, home rule is very important, that we as cities do not have to comply with every little bureaucratic thing that the state comes up with, and we need to stand up or it'll continue.
I agree you need a backflow, and I understand that Lynn Haven currently has an existing dual inline check valve. Mine's been in place since 1994. And to the best of my knowledge, has Lynn Haven ever had a backflow issue anywhere? Prevalent, once in a great while. So we're probably trying to solve a problem here that doesn't exist.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll end it.
Let us know if we can help you further.
Okay.
Is there anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Schultz.
I already spoke. Thank you again for letting me speak again. I'm a little confused what he's talking about.
And if you want to make an appointment with Mr. Kidwell as well, because I don't want to take more time, but he's basically talking about a backflow device that keeps a home from contaminating the water system for the entire city. In other words, if your device is not working, you could cause a backflow of sewer into the water system and cause harm. But I won't expound anymore with my own opinions, but that's what it is, basically. Mr. Kidwell, you want to help me out there because you're the expert. I'm certainly not.
This device is designed to prevent water from your home backing up into the city's water mains.
And I used the word sewer, sorry, but backflow of water. Anyone else? Okay, I think we've come to the end of public commentary. We'll move on to the consent agenda. That's not item number 8. The minutes from 9/11, the regular meeting. A motion needed to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the board? Any from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and so the minutes stand approved. We move to the old business. This will be a public hearing. May I see what time it is on your phone, please? I'm sorry. This public hearing is opened at 6:24 Central Time. And item number 9 is discussion and possible approval of ordinance number 1080, providing tax abatement for ACMT South LLC for 10 years. This is a second reading and action of some kind is required this evening. So direction from the attorney, we've had such issues with the public hearings. Shall we read the ordinance first or we wait until after the discussion? Thank you. Got that long-suffering look on your face. Deal with me. Ms. Gaynor, would you please read item number ordinance number 1080?
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, granting an ad valorem tax exemption to ACMT South LLC for its real property and improvements thereon, and for associated personal property as herein defined as new business pursuant to the Florida statutes, providing for an annual certification of company, providing for revocation, severability, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict, and providing for an effective date.
So I'm going to help us along here by asking for a motion for discussion and possible approval of this.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, and I believe that we have some guests here from the Bay County Economic Development Group who have some information for us. And then Ms. Gaynor, did you want to speak before they did?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. We have Becca Harden and Garrett here this evening, and you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor and members of the commission. We're very excited to bring this project forward. This was a project that we worked on for over a year. This company is a tier 1 aviation manufacturing supplier to GKN Aerospace, which you may recall that we located at our airport 2.5 years ago. They also are a tier 1 supplier to Pratt & Whitney. They rebuild engines, and also United Technologies. So they are a worldwide known advanced manufacturing company that will really put Lynn Haven on the international map in bringing their southern operations here. This is a company out of Connecticut. They will come and hire 105 people and invest $25 million. Those of you who are familiar with the former Honeywell building in the Lynn Haven Industrial Park know that that property was dilapidated. When we first started looking at it, we had to run homeless people out, drug dens out. It was really an eyesore for the city and in the county for that matter. This company came in and saw opportunity, and they bought that property. And hopefully you've seen it lately. If you've been by there, it looks fantastic. They've painted the building, they've cut the grass, they've put landscaping in. They're in the process of creating a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility there. And we've been working with them along with Ben to get their permitting completed. And they are in the process of getting FAA certification on some of their equipment. And we will be working with CareerSource Florida and CareerSource Gulf Coast to start their hiring process in January. So that project's moving forward, and we're very proud to be able to bring that to the city of Lynn Haven, and we appreciate your support in that manner.
No, commissioners, mayor, thank you for your time. We do have any questions to be answered. We have had some questions from the public concerning hiring schedules from the company. And Becca Hart mentioned that the company would invest $25 million. That is their plan. They've provided to the tax assessor a list of equipment, roughly about $20 million. But long term, their hiring plan is to be much larger than 105 employees and more than $20 million capital investment. So,
Could you speak to the skill levels they'll be looking for and maybe the salary range for some of these initial jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. The salary range is $45,000 annually, which is more than 115% of the Bay County average wage, which is $37,400. So it's a very nice project, and they'll be bringing in nice paying jobs. And the skill sets, mainly technicians. We are working very closely with Haney because, as you know, Haney has a very advanced aviation maintenance program, AMP program, They will be offering internships with the students at Haney and also Gulf Coast, as well as Florida State University in their mechanical engineering program. They've already made connections with all of our educational groups. And, I'd just like to mention one other thing about this company is that we announced this project before the hurricane, and they are so excited to come in our community. Right after the hurricane, around the Halloween season, they sent a team of 9 men here from Connecticut, and they rode around our communities helping people out. They served food, they cut trees, they cleared roads, they bought stands at Home Depot and set up candy stations for kids at our Halloween party here in Lynn Haven. They love this community and they want to be an employer of choice, which they will be. They'll be very philanthropic. They came and helped us right after the storm and they felt our pain. And this is the kind of company that a lot of people in my field as economic developers work their whole career to get a company like this. And we've got them right here in Lynn Haven. I hope you guys are as proud as we are.
Yes.
Thank you. Garrett, did you have anything else you want to say? Would you mind if I ask the public if they have any questions that they would, because it is a public hearing at this point. And if you, as they ask, that we'll let the public ask the question and we'll ask them to sit and you come back to the microphone if that would be an okay format for everyone. Okay. So is there anyone who has a question for Rebecca Harden or Garrett? Yeah, Mr. Schultz, if you'd come to the microphone and address the question.
Yes, I want to know, are you moving from the airport to Lynn Haven?
So this project actually looked at several different sites throughout Bay County during their site selection process, and really throughout the entire country, because this project could be located anywhere in the U.S. But ultimately, no, they purchased the Honeywell facility, and they're not moving anywhere from Bay County to another location. They've always been dead set on the Honeywell facility in Lynn Haven.
Thank you. Are there other questions from the public? Mrs. Walker?
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. My one question is, approximately, we've been told, the city of Lynn Haven's been told that the city of Lynn Haven would abate approximately $64,000 a year. How does that happen? Do we give the tax money to the company? Is it just canceled off their tax form? What happens?
I'm nodding, yes.
What happens if their taxes are not 64,000 and they're 35,000? Are they just canceling the 35 and that 64 just goes away?
My understanding is the 64, 65 range was just probably the maximum that it would be.
That's not what we were told.
Okay, I'm not saying that
Okay.
you're wrong. I'm saying
Okay.
that was my understanding, that would probably be around the maximum. It could be more, it could be less, but I'll defer to Becca. But
In the paperwork that we were given at the last meeting, Ben said that with the $64,000 question, the $64,000 figure was a conservative figure. So to me, the 64 is at the bottom of what it might be. It might very well be higher.
I interpreted that differently when he said, conservatively speaking, that was the most that it could be.
Okay.
Okay.
But what happened? So that's the
And
most.
they're saying
And they're
yes.
saying that's the most.
Yes.
So the city is not giving them any money. It's just not, they are not paying it according to the property appraiser's tax collector information.
I'll let Ms. Harden address because she does this. And then if you have another question, I'll allow, okay?
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. And we did have some conversation. Thank you for your interest.
Can you tilt that up a little bit, Becca? Thank you.
We did have some conversation on the phone. Thank you for your interest. That's exactly right. We work very closely with the tax assessor. And this is actually a pay for performance type of tax abatement that the company has to maintain a threshold and level of jobs before they even qualify for this. So if for some reason they have this empty building, they're not generating the jobs, they don't get the tax abatement because we have a schedule working with the tax assessor's office, and they come in and audit to make sure that the jobs are created, and it's based on the taxed value of the equipment in the building.
Thank you. Ms. Walker, did you have another question? It seemed like you did.
Not really a question, but at the last meeting, at least for Ms. Harden, at the last meeting when Ben spoke, unfortunately, we were not given the additional information that Bay County is also abating their taxes. And on the way out of the meeting last week, Mr. Russell mentioned it to me. So at that time, we weren't even told, one, that Bay County is abating, and two, how much Bay County is abating. The Bay County is abating approximately $80,000.
Which doesn't really affect us. We were
Correct.
talking about how it affects Lynn
That's,
Haven.
I agree, but in the back of my mind, I'd like to see how a company functions. They're getting 80,000 abatement from one, from one group, 64 from us. I wish that had been added to last week's information that we were given.
Thank you. So that's not a question. Is there another question that anyone has in the room? And please come to the microphone.
Deals with this whole
Well, we're just asking for questions right now. If you have a question about the situation, or if you have a comment, if you disagree or agree, you're allowed to do that. I mean, it's just,
Are you going, when you go to your vote and everything like that, you're going to open it up for comment?
we're there right now.
Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. We did stand up at the first time at the meeting of this thing. The application was rifled with mistakes, and it led to a lot of questions. For example, the salary was listed at $47,000 per hour. If a company,
Okay, we corrected that. I mean, it was a
I
typo. So,
understand.
okay, Mr. Walker, if you could just get to your question or your comment. We don't want the history of the last 4 meetings. Question or comment. That's what we're asking for tonight. Question or comment. You can get mad at me. You've had more time to speak since I've been mayor than any other public official.
You've done this a lot to me. Okay. All right.
Well,
that's fine.
because I'm tired of hearing the
you
history.
said-
Okay, Mr. Walker, either speak or sit. Comment or question.
I'm giving you a comment.
Go ahead.
Okay. And the comment was the applicant was rifled with mistakes.
Okay,
And
then
I named the mistake.
we've
okay?
got it.
Yes, you've corrected that mistake. But my follow comment is this. If a company is going to submit an application that's rifled with mistakes that we catch, what credibility do we have with this as it goes further into the 10-year program, which we're going to give an abatement for, the way you take it here, $650,000. Their statement is that they're going to come to a conclusion of 105 employees within 10 years. The abatement will be $650,000 out of our money.
That's not a correct statement
Why isn't it?
because there's no way to know what the amount of taxes will be over a 10-year period, Mr.
That's
Walker.
what's in
You
their
can't.
application. They say they're
That's
asking
the
for
conservative estimate. Okay, do you have any other comments?
Okay, yes, I do.
Go ahead.
They purchased this property for $2 million. At that time, it was abandoned, and the city of Lynn Haven went in and cleaned up as best it could to help them out. At that time, from the year 1985 to 2018, we received in taxes to this city between $37,000 and $47,000 per year. Even when it was abandoned, we were still getting tax money. We didn't abate that. We didn't do anything. Mr. Russell made the comment that the timing on this is a little bit ill-fated. What we're going to do here is we're going to give an abatement set by the Bay County PA. The PA is setting that with this enhancements and everything, they might get to $64,000 in tax value with the equipment and everything like that. They might get there. They might within 10 years. Why don't we take a look at the abatement and say, okay, move it to 3 years, get the 105 employees, increase in taxes, take a look at it then, and then extend it. That is my opinion.
That's what I was looking for. That
I
sentence
know
right
you-
there.
You
Thank
want you want my opinion at your request.
No, you requested, Mr. Walker, please be seated, but you requested to speak. You were allowed to speak. I asked for no history. All I wanted was what you just gave me in that last sentence. That's what the commission needs. We need to know what the public wants. Do you want us to do this? Do you want us to not do it? And tell us why. And that could have been done in one sentence. That's all I said. Our Chief Ramey.
I appreciate a company coming in and developing this property because we had a high number of calls for service when it was abandoned, whether it was graffiti, drugs. It just looked like an abandoned warehouse out in the middle of New York City, and it was a problematic area for us. So I thank you very much for doing what you're doing.
Thank you, Chief Ramey. Is there anyone else? Mr. Cullen?
Thank you, Mayor, Council.
I just also want to say it is very hard to get large businesses like this to move to our community. I appreciate you as a city council understanding that this business moving here will bring at the least $4 million a year in a pay scale to our community. I hope because of your willingness to work with them, most of those people will move to Lynn Haven. I thank our county. I thank the EDA for working their hearts off and making sure that our community can grow and be strong. And thank you to this company for choosing Lynn Haven. Thank you.
And full disclosure, Mr. Cullen does not live in Lynn Haven, but we appreciate his coming to our meeting and expressing his interest. Is there anyone else who would like to? Yes, sir, go ahead.
Fred Thompson, New Hampshire Avenue. I spent 17 years at Sally Mae. I know what the traffic's like in that industrial park. I sure hope you will look at the traffic that this new employer will bring in, because already it's times a day, it's kind of congested. So just keep that in the back of your mind and take a look at it.
I think that's a very good thought, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I think we've reached the end of that. Okay, at this point, the public hearing, I'll make sure everybody in the public had a chance to speak. Mr. Walker, I know we had disagreement, but if you want anything else that you wanted to say, I want to make sure you get a chance to say it. You're good? Okay. I'll let you do that. Anyone else? Okay, is there anyone on the commission who has something they'd like to say at this point?
Yes, Mayor, I would actually. You know, I'm a big advocate of the EDA. I know it's an important venture for you guys to go out for our community and try to bring these businesses into our community. I also know how competitive it is. I've seen in my years in business, it hadn't been as long as a lot of you guys in here, but I've seen the automotive, a lot of it move down south due to right to work, states and no unions. And when I see those plants come down, what I see come up is not just tier 1 suppliers, but tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers pop up. And I know there's small towns all over this nation in which a big plant goes and opens up a facility. And next thing you know, you got 12 feeder plants to the one big plant that's feeding the base of the future in our example. So I think it's a great job. I commend you highly. I know it is a very, very competitive market out there for especially aerospace. It's hard to get past the gatekeeper, I understand. So I'm very thankful for you guys' hard work, and we're thankful as a community that you're working for us. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Aldridge. Anyone else on the board have something to add to the discussion or questions to ask?
I'm good.
Commissioner Tender?
Okay, yes, thank you. As you know, at the last meeting, I was very opposed all the way across the board. But I would certainly be, I guess I can't say I would be in favor. I would certainly like to entertain the idea of going 3 to 5 years and make sure the company is doing as what they promised. And if they are adhering to their initial promise, then we just renew it for the rest of the time. And I would be totally in favor of that.
Would you like to put that in the form of a motion, Commissioner Tender? We have a motion on the floor for discussion and possible approval, and I forgot who made the motion. I believe you did, Commissioner Russell. Commissioner Russell, would you be willing to amend your motion, or do you want to leave your motion like it is?
Mayor, may I say
go ahead.
something?
Yes, please.
It's my understanding
get
that
through
there's checks and balances already in place, and if they do not supply the jobs, they do not get the abatement. So with that being the case, no, ma'am, I'm not willing to amend my motion.
And Mayor, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
I forgot that part. And how often, if I may ask you a question, how often do they check those figures and everything and making sure? So every year. That's good for me.
Are there other questions from the commission on this? Any comments? Okay, so there's a motion on the floor for discussion and possible approval if there's no further discussion from the commission. And I know this is, it is an important decision for the community. If there's anyone else from the public that would like to say anything else before we do the vote, I will listen. Mr. Miller.
Leon Miller, 1508 District Avenue. I would just like to see this passed off. We need to start keeping our young people home and not let them leave town and have to come back to visit the parents. Too many young kids from Bay County graduate and have to leave.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Anyone else? Okay. All right, Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Aldrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved, and congratulations to the company, and thank you to Bay County Economic Development Director and Garrett for coming out. Thank you. This public hearing is closed at 6:44 Central Time. We move into new business. This is the discussion regarding resolving the traffic issues at Bay Haven, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the acronym, Bay Haven Charter Academy and Hawks Landing. Acting City Manager has a report.
Yes, Mayor, I'm going to ask that our city engineer, Chris Forehand, will come to us, and also the police chief, Ramey.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Chris Forehand with Panhandle Engineering. I got a call from Chief Ramey a couple of weeks ago, and he discussed with me
Can
the,
you tilt that up, Chris?
excuse me, I'm sorry.
Thank you very much.
He discussed with me the traffic issue there at Hawks Landing Boulevard and 389, which is actually the same intersection as Mosley Drive. And we talked about the inability of the neighbors that live in Hawks Landing being able to get to their homes in the afternoon when school lets out. So we sat down and came up with a solution to solve that problem. And the solution we came up with is in a conceptual site plan that I think Ms. Gaynor gave to you guys in your packet. So what it involves is taking out that median that's there. There's a sign for Hawks Landing that's in the median. So I know there's probably some folks that, are not happy about that, but that is really the only solution that we could come up with to solve the issue. Because what it would do is it would allow those people that are coming home to use that new lane going eastbound into the subdivision. And then the two right lanes would merge into the two lanes that travel onto the school property.
Okay. Chief, did you have something you
Did I
wanted to
cover
say? You
everything?
came forward.
He covered everything. And again, I was getting inundated. I know some of the commissioners were too, about how to resolve the issue. And that's really the only way to do it, because those two lanes are dedicated to go into that school when the intersection was built. So I just think this is the best solution. Chris did, a great job, and it was easy. I just hope you guys see it the same way, and the citizens understand we have to get emergency vehicles in there if something happens. And that's that intersection. There's no way, when they're locked up like that we could get in there.
Thank you. Is there a motion or other comments from the commission?
I just had a question, Chris. Sorry. How long would a project take from start to finish, and what would be the approximate cost?
I don't know the cost yet. Vicki and I discussed bringing it for you and just seeing if you were okay with the idea before we took it that far. But I'd say probably 3 months total, because we would have to do some surveying.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, if
Yes.
I may. So I guess we're looking for a motion to give the city manager direction to get started on this, to bring back an RFQ for us to approve. And if that's what we're looking for, I'm willing to make that motion. But I do have a comment that I'd like to make. I got put into the Hawks Landing Facebook group and have been beat up pretty bad over this already. They do not want their median gone. They understand there's an issue. They wanted us to try to find a way to get around not having to lose the median. I understand this is the best solution and probably the way we should go. I would like to recommend that we consider shifting their sign over to the triangular median for the turn lane. So at least they still have a sign on the road, because that was their issue, is they wanted to have a Hawks Landing sign so people could see it driving down 389. If that's something we can do, I think maybe that will placate the gentleman or the people that are upset that they're losing their subdivision sign.
Can you show me what you're talking about?
Sure. You got right. Oh, here's you got. I got phone glasses on. Sorry, I'm about half blind. You got a triangle property right here that we maybe could put the sign there. because that would still be our property because it's still a median between the roads, right?
I'll check the site distances if it works.
Okay.
Should be fine.
Okay. I mean, it's an option that maybe we can, like I said, because they were upset the possibility of them losing their sign. So, but that being said, Mayor, I think this is a great solution, and I commend the city engineer and the police chief for getting on this so quick.
So your
and
motion
get-
would be, Commissioner Russell, to
to have the city manager move forward with bringing an RFQ back for us to get this done.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second that we ask the city manager to bring back an RFQ, request for qualifications to move forward with this project. I would like to ask if there's anyone present in the meeting from Hawks Landing tonight. Yes, would you like to comment, sir, or make any comment to the commission?
Commissioner, Mayor, got the Oscar Langston from 309 Bay Wing Loop, Hawks Landing. I'm also on the board of directors for Hawks Landing. We've been kind of beat up over that as well, like you guys have. And then the chief been talking about a solution to come up with it, and he brought that solution to us. And if you would, we would like to peruse that solution that you have, take it to the board, and then we'll take it to the members. Not all the people in Hawks Landing are beating you up.
No,
I
sir.
think a lot of them want the solution because it's taking them like 45 minutes to get into the housing area. And if you could provide that for us, we'll go ahead and bring it to the board, and we'll bring it to the housing residents of the area.
We appreciate your comment, sir. So there's been anybody else that wanted to speak to this? There's been a motion and a second that we move forward with an, oh, sorry.
Sorry, we had someone online.
Go ahead. Thank you, Catherine.
So we had somebody online saying that they're having the same issues all the way up the street towards Marriott Highlands as well. And they asked that that be considered to build going all the way on 389 to 390. So instead of just that one area.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, so there's been a motion that the city manager would bring back an RFQ and that we would move forward if the commission so desires. And then we've had a spokesperson from the board of directors for Hawks Landing who would like to be brought in on that. So maybe we could include and find out, how the neighborhood feels, maybe bring them in at the next meeting. Maybe you could encourage them. I would say, since this really is a commission decision, that perhaps, and please advise me, city attorney, if I'm incorrect on this, but I think perhaps the way to go with this is to advertise through your board to Hawks Landing that this will come before the commission at the next meeting. And if they have discussion points or objection or agreement they'd like to bring, if they could come to the meeting. If they're unable to come to the meeting, they can participate online by giving their address that they do live in Hawks Landing and give their comments. If that'll be suitable. Is that suitable with the rest of the board? Okay. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so we will move forward with the RFQ. Item number 11, discussion and possible approval of resolution number 2019-09-303 for the submission of projects to the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program known as HMGP for the city of Lynn Haven. And Ms. Gaynor, if you have some information for us, and then if we could read the resolution.
Sure. A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, approving those hazard mitigation projects named in Bay County Local Mitigation Strategy, LMS, plan as amended, providing for approval of the 25% match for the Hazard Mitigation Program, HMGP, and providing an immediate effective date. Mayor, this is some grant money that has come through FEMA, and it's a grant fund that's been established by the local hazard mitigation program due to Hurricane Michael. And so many of the cities within Bay County have submitted projects into this program. We have submitted 39 projects into this program, and we know that there is a cost involved, like anything. This grant program will pay 75% of the cost for those projects that we've submitted, and then the city has to pick up 25% of that. And we do have a list of 39 projects, and they range anywhere from lift stations to flooding, storm water issues to some individual houses that have been flooded over the past couple of years.
Thank you. And could we we did read the resolution,
ma'am,
yes.
we did.
Is there a motion for discussion and possible approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions from the commission for Ms. Gaynor? Any discussion? Any questions or discussion from the public? There appears to be none. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so stands approved. Thank you. Thank you for all your work on this as well. Item number 12, discussion and possible approval of employee policy 110-A, providing for random quarterly drug testing for first responders in compliance with the police department accreditation. Chief Ramey?
The accreditation, one of the standards is quarterly, they do a random drug test through the police department. And it needs to be handled through HR, and it conflicts with the city policy. So I was just asking the policy so they'll mirror one another, but that was not in place before.
Is the random testing computer generated?
It is.
Thank you.
Kelly's already reached out to a firm that's willing to accept it, and then urgent care will be the one that performs it.
Thank you. Is there a motion for discussion and possible approval of employee policy 110-A, providing for the random quarterly drug
So
test?
moved.
Second.
Go ahead.
It's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or further questions from the board?
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
This says first responders, but this is just related to the police department, right? This doesn't include the fire department?
We'll let our HR person speak to that. This is Kelly Battistini. She is our HR director for the city.
So to be compliant and so we could be the same across the board, we have to do all first responders, which are police and fire.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Chief Delange, are you okay with this?
Chief Delange, you want to, sorry.
I'm sorry, Mayor. It's just I've heard from the police chief. I want to make sure that the fire chief is on board.
And I just
too.
want to make sure everybody can hear from home as well, and we have to record it. So.
Yeah, John Delange, Fire Chief. I have no problem with drug testing. I think it's a good thing, but I think it should be something that's done citywide, not just to isolate the first responders, but I think it needs to cover every city employee.
Okay. Mayor, I tend to agree with him.
Okay.
There's some truth to that, Mayor.
I don't make this decision. The board does. Okay. Chief?
My only concern is my employees at the police department, because of my standard, cannot be mixed with the general population of the other city employees. I have to have it done in the police department quarterly. Somebody from my department has to get
For
that
your accreditation.
For my accreditation, right. So, I mean, whatever you guys decide to do with the rest of the city or the fire department, but I have to have it separated for me.
And so tonight we're looking at, the discussion and possible approval of this policy, providing so that the police department is meeting accreditation. I would ask this question of Kelly Battistini. Is it possible for the board to approve the chief's request for accreditation and table the rest of it until time for further discussion? Or do we have to take care of all first responders with this, as you were saying
Well,
earlier?
I think that what the state says is that we have to do it for safety sensitive positions.
Mhm.
And so we can't single out the group of firefighters away from the group of police officers. So if we're going to do safety sensitive positions, we have to do both.
So wouldn't that include your heavy equipment operators as well?
No,
or
no,
that's
it's
not a
just-
safety
No,
sensitive.
it's not even a 911 operator.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I would defer to our attorney.
I believe that interpretation is correct.
So I need some direction from the attorney how to proceed.
If the commission wishes to accept the Chief Ramey's recommendation, become compliant, that would be step one, which we can handle tonight. If the commission would like to broaden the random drug testing as proposed by Commissioner, or suggested by Commissioner Tender, then I would suggest that we add that on another agenda meeting for a full discussion. Let's handle one issue at a time. And this issue before us today, I think we have if we single out one agency over the other, I think that would be in conflict with HR policy, the state statute.
I feel good with that suggestion. The city manager? Okay, and the rest of the commission, any objection to that? So we will proceed either yes or no with this, the way it is written tonight, which would include first responders. And then if anyone on the commission would like to expand that, then you could bring that to the city manager to add to the next agenda. Okay? All right, so there's been a motion and a second, correct? Yes. Any further discussion from the board? Questions? Any further discussion from, yes, sir, go ahead, the public.
Tim Clark, 1705 Massachusetts, and not that I want people doing drugs, but if the cop or the fireman shows up, yes, I'd like to know he's not on drugs. But if a city worker shows up to fix my meter, I could care less if he smokes pot on the weekend. So I wouldn't like the city to waste tons of money testing all of the employees that really doesn't matter. I get the safety issues with cops and firefighters, but you know, going throughout the city, that sounds like a lot of money, and we're penny pinching right now to try to solve so many problems. I just don't foresee
Appreciate that
having to
input, sir.
expand that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? There appears to be no other discussion. Ms. Gaynor, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender, yes, Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, and before I move to item number 13 for adjournment, I would like to clarify my position on public participation in the meetings. If you watch other meetings throughout the county and the other cities, I think that you would agree with me that we have more public discussion in Lynn Haven probably than in any other meeting. However, I hope that I do not appear to be rude or that I appear to be controversial or that I appear to be picking on anyone, but I cannot allow one person to monopolize a commission meeting every time. And so if anyone was offended tonight, I apologize. I tried to apologize to the person tonight, but I will not allow anyone to monopolize a Lynn Haven meeting because our time is a little, more valuable than that. Come up, get to the point. I promise never to cut you off, make you sit down, but you just can't expound on the history of the city of Lynn Haven every time we speak. We don't have the time for it. So thank you and good night. Meeting's adjourned.
Mayor? Well,